just when the community was starting to glimpse what this game could look like when functions and features were unlocked by modders, cue up the Reddit radicals. This time dropping lies and fabrications, all with the goal of causing as much chaos as possible. If you're new here, please consider hitting subscribe, and now, let's get stuck into the latest madness with Helldivers 2. Alright, the Galactic War is certainly a topic right now amongst the Helldivers players and how it's lost much of its oomph, which we'll get into a little later in this one, but what I wanted to say is yesterday we did get a new major order tasking players with taking on the automatons and a 5-day major order of which we've got, what, now about 3.5 days to go? Where the only objective we're being asked to complete is to liberate Mesa, which I know sounds simple enough, but in reality, it's far from it. You see, Mesa is not yet available to us, and we have to go through at least 2 planets to finally reach it, which started off really rough, at least yesterday, because the Helldiver mob immediately saw Marfark and they all started blitzing that planet. And trust me, I get it. An ice planet biome versus another planet that's hazy with wild environmental effects, and naturally, players went straight for Marfark, smashing headlong into its insane 5% regen rate, and that went on for at least half the day, netting us absolutely zero progress. The good news is that eventually enough players made the swap over to Choohe with half that regen rate. We've also got the DSS and low orbit overhead, and progress is now being seen there. However, even with the flip over to Choohe, divers are spread across the galaxy, and when you add in the Galactic War modifier, it's looking like this one planet alone will take us in excess of 36 hours to liberate, and then we've got to go take Matar Bay, and eventually that's going to open up to us Mesa. I know we're seeing a ton of player feedback flowing in right now, and we're all wanting what we want added into the game, but at some point, let's be honest here, Arrowhead has to put in the time, and they have to put in some sort of communications board for players to use, because there's just a very small portion of the worldwide player base that even browses Reddit, YouTube, or the Discord, because if they did, they would have seen all those posts saying dive Choohe. But, you know, in the end, we did get it sorted out, but it cost us at least half a day trying to perform that little maneuver. However, one thing players immediately ran into when they started diving Choohe is that absolute stack of effects all packed into this one planet. We're seeing things like extreme heat, extreme cold, violent sandstorms. We get to deploy with one less stem. Yeah, that's a good one there. Objective locations are hidden, and at least on difficulty 10, 50% increased stratagem call-in times, with the only positives for us right now being that we do get a slight liberation boost by having the DSS overhead, and we also get a 35% reduction on mech cooldown timers. Players diving right now need to be wary of what may be bugged, as the known issues board was updated just a few hours ago to finally include the Lumberer and Flame Sentry not dealing damage to targets at close range, as well as, listen to this one, the Proton hotfix for Linux and Steam Deck users worked for some players, but it hasn't solved everyone's issues. It's using that OS, which is definitely a message I've been reading in my Discord and from many viewers on the videos. There's also a persisting issue with vaulting that when comboed with the broken Hellpod steering, those are, yeah, 2 of the most frustrating and repeated viewer comments I see. We spoke about the current official major order in Galactic War earlier in this video, which we can now use as a point of reference and context to get us up to this point. The unofficial CGW, or Custom Galactic War, offering up a faster-paced, player-driven experience, adding in things like all new biomes, modified enemy spawns, custom mechs, missions, and a whole lot more. Now, I know some of you are asking to actually see the CGW, because in my last video, when I spoke about it, I didn't show you any footage. But now that I've got some, this thing looks pretty sick. I especially like the new forested and hilly biome, and you know, who wouldn't want to have Seaf join them planetside outside of a city? Also, look closely at the Seaf because they are rocking some heavy-duty Helldiver stratagems. All in all, this is apparently being created and run by a very small team of dedicated modders who have had to start taking applications just for people to join their Discord. which I will note is currently the only way you can gain access to the CGW. So let's step back for a minute and survey the land here if we can. It's Helldivers, just managed differently. It's got a dynamic galactic war, it's got modular mechs, it's got Seif on the ground, fighting shoulder to shoulder with the Helldivers, and from what people tell me that have gotten to experience it, it's great. So what's the problem? Enter our old friends, the Reddit radicals, or should I say the Reddit radical.
Warning, what you're about to see is total and absolute bullshit.
PSA, the Custom Galactic War is run by Glazedivers planning on continuing Arrowhead's nerf rampage. And then the post goes on to say, not only are they extremely hostile towards any criticism or reasonable balance request, they are also threatening to ban anyone disagreeing with them. And then this post has all these really poorly done Photoshop Discord messages using the actual Discord tags of some of the CGW team, but saying loopy and crazy stuff like this one when they're acting like they're responding to a member's post asking if the team would be buffing weaponry, and they threw this response in that says, F no, we're nerfing shit. I'm looking at you, Coyote. Okay. Another obviously photoshopped exchange says, I tried out the CGW and, well, safe to say the weapons still feel a little underwhelming. And of course they've got to throw in this chopped photoshopped response like they're trying to pawn it off like it's somebody on the CGW mod team. And here's their response, holy F, I am tired of you guys complaining about balance. I'll genuinely nerf the guns, bro. Shut the F up. Now, full disclosure here, I'm not the best photoshopper in the world, but Discord has a set spacing between your tag and your comment, and when I see the spacing way the hell off, that's an instant red flag to me. Plus, there's this first response where they're saying that they decided to focus on the milsim grunt fantasy parts of Helldivers 2, and if you don't like it, you can basically get the hell out. I mean, you get the picture, and apparently so did Reddit, because they immediately started calling this post out as fake. Here's our first response. This faker than Santa. Trying to make people seem bad with edited, non-existent messages I see. Good job, Scotty. And here's another comment. Me when I spread intentional misinformation. Now, almost instantly, the team at CGW responded with a post on what looks like their own Discord, going on to say, quote, these screenshots are photoshopped and we did not say any of this stuff. Please do not believe everything you read online. For whatever reason, there are some losers trying to get people to hate on CGW. First off, I wanted to say good on the team over at CGW for being so proactive. And while I'm at it, I also want to answer the question they posed when they asked, for whatever reason, there are some losers trying to get people to hate on CGW. Well, the reason, I think, is very simple. You are making something look very dynamic and giving players what they've been wanting from the game for years now. And because you're doing that, it's making the studio not look so good. And that's when we get these radicalized Redditors who come out of the woodwork and step in to defend the sanctity of the studio and the game. Although this isn't the same full frontal assault and doxing we saw when Mr Redacted posted his in good faith charity dev challenge to the Arrowhead team, I wanted to say it's still coming definitely from the exact same place. That being to destroy anything that is not pro Helldivers 2. Which is kind of interesting. I mean, if you think about it, the CGW is Helldivers 2. It's just HD2 reimagined, but even that is enough for someone to spend more than a few minutes on Photoshop so they can post a smear campaign using a Reddit burner account just to try to kill off something they see as a threat to their game. Again, just to remind you here, Mr. Redacted received tons of hate mail. He was ridiculed up and down on Reddit. He was called out for bullying the studio, and eventually he even had his work and horse farm where he volunteered doxxed so badly that both ended up letting him go. Again, because he had the audacity to ask the devs to play their own game and to experience the issues we players saw on a daily basis. And if this dev team could pull off a full completion, he was willing to give them the chance to name the charity of their choice for where his charity money would be donated. Here, though, with the CGW, you've got a small team opening up the Galactic War, giving players the freedom to do a lot of things like mod their mechs, and apparently that's enough to draw down the full wrath of Reddit, using a misinformation smear campaign as they attempted to slow down the momentum the CGW was gaining. Just me weighing in here completely unscripted, and I've spoken about this quite a few times in past Helldivers uploads, but as someone that was against the Sony mandatory logon requirements, I think that for a PvE game, we can definitely sort of police ourselves. Know what I'm saying? I mean, sure, you're going to run into douchebags every now and then because even assholes can apply for and get credit cards. So they're going to be buying the game and they're going to grief others. But as a whole, those kind of players tend to be the exception, not the norm. Also, if someone is hacking the game, like when it comes to super credit or weapon XP maxing, if they do that in their own private game, it's still a scummy thing to do, but there is a silver lining here, being that it doesn't affect any other players. But here's the catch. Mr. Redacted and now the team over at the CGW weren't doing any of the sticky icky. As far as I know, this Custom Galactic War looks and operates like the official missions and such, but it does not affect our current major orders, objectives, or percentages in any way, shape, or form. It's just like an alternate reality version of the Galactic War that's not hurting anybody. But as you just got to witness there, even something like this is enough to draw out the insanity you find on Reddit. Anyways, I'm glad the thread of lies was almost instantly shut down, and it sounds kind of foreboding, I'll admit, but watch out, divers. This will not be the last time we see this happen. We've seen the records set and the awards received, many of which I've spoken about here on the channel, but we have a new revenue breakdown also found on Reddit saying, quote, for grossing well over 700 million up to 1.3 billion, are you happy with the state of Helldivers 2? And they've gone on to spell out the maths, including over 1.3 billion with a B in estimated gross revenue. And once you take out the adjusted regional pricing, discounts, refunds, wow, look at that, 162 million in refunds, okay. Gabe's cut over at Steam is at nearly 240 million. And of course, you've got taxes. So this post is saying at the end of the day, Arrowhead, and I'm going to assume Sony, get to split somewhere just under 400 million. The post also goes on to lay out the persisting bugs and glitches with the game, the fact that the studio has no communication skills and so on, which, I've talked about in previous videos. But here's a question now for my viewers. Do you think these numbers are accurate? Because full disclosure here, I've seen nothing indicating that the game has made that much money, but 21 million plus copies sold at roughly $40 a pop is what, about 850 million just there before you add on the zillions of war bonds and superstore purchases. So, it's definitely within the realm of possibilities, I guess. Also, while you're dropping a comment, what do you think overall of this latest episode of Redditors Gone Wild with the crazy photoshopped Discord message smear campaign? Drop a comment and let's get a discussion going. If you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe and ring the notifications bell to receive my future upload alerts. If you're on mobile, please swipe to hype the video. And as always, I'd like to extend a massive thanks to all of our hardcore channel supporters. Until the next one, this is LtBuzzLitebeer, signing off.